Hi everyone, this is Catalina from thedreamingtoreality.com, and today I'm going to teach you how to cut laminated sheets with your Cricut using print and cut. I'm going to have two methods. One is compatible with the Cricut Maker 3, the Explorer 3, and the Cricut Maker because the sensor is powerful enough to read the laminated sheet. It doesn't work with the Explorer 2 and older machines because the print and cut sensor doesn't read very well on reflective materials. So yes, it's a bummer, and quite frankly is the more reliable method, and it produces super beautiful and crisp results. You need to be from a desktop computer. If you send it even from your phone, the cut will be bad. I don't know why, but it's just kind of like those differences. So yes, you have to be from your desktop computer. The second method is using your iPhone or your iPad and Snap Mat. Now, Snap Mat I believe only works on iOS users like Apple. It doesn't work on Android. Sorry. Anyway, here's the thing. I love the concept of Snap Mat, but it can be so glitchy. It took me forever to get it to work. But if you really wanna, print and cut and then cut some laminated sheets, I think it's still a good option. It just is unreliable, and I wanna mention this up front because I don't want you to be so excited and then, why didn't nobody warn me about this? So now that you guys know what you're gonna be learning today, let's go to Cricut Design Space. These are the images and shapes that I'm gonna be using for my project, but just think, what would you do in your case? Like maybe you wanna do just shapes or animals or just the letters, right? You wanna have enough space in between so you can do what I'm about to teach you. First, I'm going to flatten this entire image. Perfect. And now I'm gonna create as offset of this image. I like working in a way where my offsets are not touching each other because I think it's easier when you are going to laminate. This is how I recommend it. I'm going to click on Weld Offsets and I'm gonna click on Apply. I'm going to make this offset as a basic cut so I can edit it better. And I'm gonna move it aside so I can see what things I need to modify. Over here, I can see these circles have this hole. The trick we're gonna use to laminate our sheets, we need to have everything solid, no holes whatsoever. So I'm gonna go ahead and use the contour tool and hide these areas over here. And I'm also gonna hide them over here and here. And that's perfect. Now I have my offset and I know it's gonna work perfect. And I'm gonna make it white and I'm going to make it into print and cut. When you're done creating your offset and setting it to print and cut, we need to align it with our top image. Now, this one is flattened, but this one is just set to print and cut. And what I'm gonna do here is that I'm gonna center them. I'm gonna click on Align and I'm gonna click on Center. And instead of flattening these two images, I am going to attach them. And now I have my print and cut layer. My Cricut is gonna cut around the colored shapes, like for instance on this pink, the green, all of the pieces that have color, but it's also going to cut around the offset. Everything is gonna make so much more sense when we go to the machine. I have my print and cut layer, and now I'm gonna have an extra cut layer where I'm going to cheat my Cricut into cutting my laminated image. And to do that, first I need to make a copy of my offset. So I'm going to step on here and I'm gonna click on duplicate. And I'm gonna bring it over here. And now I'm going to do an inset to create sort of like a little bleeding effect. So all my cuts are nice and sharp and stay on the laminated part. And again, this is just gonna make more sense when I show you how to do it. So I'm gonna click on offset, and instead I'm gonna add a negative distance, a tiny, super tiny. So yes, this is gonna be my inset, and I'm gonna click on apply. And I am going to make this kind of gray so we can see better. And I am going to attach this layer. When my Cricut cuts, it's gonna cut around these two edges. It's very important that the new inset you created also is able to be another offset of the original image. Like for instance, I'm just gonna create a copy here just to show you. Control C, Control V, and when I place it on top, you see there's still an offset. The gray layer is still an offset. So now we have our print and cut layer, and then we have our cut layer, like the cheat layer, and it's set on print and cut. It's very important that both images are the same size. I'm gonna save my project, and now I'm gonna click on make it. This is the one where we're gonna be printing and then cutting, but after we laminate, this is the one that we're going to be cutting, okay? So I'm going to click on continue, and I'm going to send this to my home printer. For cutting my project, I'm gonna be using my light grip mat, the blue mat. And for cutting the laminated sheet, I'm gonna be using my green mat. It's very new, and I want to make sure that this sheet of paper suffers the least damage, so I'm going to be using my blue mat for that. So I'm going to put it here. I'm going to select copy paper as my material. Now I'm going to load my mat, and I'm going to start the cut. My machine is done cutting, and I'm gonna unload my mat. You're gonna see how I cut. You see this one's come out. This little one's over here. And I'm gonna remove everything very careful. I'm going to remove my sheet from my mat. Like this, making sure it doesn't break. We have this here. Now, let me grab the laminator. Now I'm gonna grab a laminating pouch, and I'm gonna open it. This is the tricky part, because you have to set everything in a way where it doesn't move. So the way I like to do it is to open the pouch, and first I set the page inside here. Okay, and I like to make sure it's nice and aligned. And then I just work in order. First, I set the circles and try to center them as much as you can. And then I'm gonna do the heart. And then close little by little. And with one hand, hold them in place. Now I'm gonna work with this cool and make it nice and centered. And little by little, hold it in place. I just finished placing everything inside my laminating pouch, and I'm gonna feed it to my laminator. Be very careful so things don't move. I'm done laminating, and it's time to cut. To place the edge of the sheet with the edge of this, you know, where the numbers start. So like this, you're gonna leave a little bit out, but that's okay. like that, and use the brayer. And I'm going to go to design space. Now this time I'm gonna cut the sheet layer, okay? So I'm gonna say here I've already printed, and on material I'm going to choose acetate. You can choose either or. Acetate, if your machine doesn't have acetate, you can also pick foil acetate and click on done. And the pressure, you know, I tested it and default is just fine. Now I'm going to load the mat. Machine is done cutting, so I'm going to unload my mat. Look at the cuts. Aren't they perfect? They seriously are. I don't know if you can see here, but this is the little edge that we did in design space. And the reason why I did it mainly was to avoid Cricut cutting right through this white layer. So whatever a cut was around this layer is not going to, you know, affect the final product. This would happen more if your machine wasn't calibrated for print and cut. So calibrate your machine before you make this project. So yes, this is method number 1. Now I'm gonna show you method number 2. I mean, this method will work with any machine except with the Cricut Joy, because the Cricut Joy doesn't support print and cut, and it doesn't support Snap Mat either, I believe. Now, I also think Snap Mat only works with iOS only. Although one time I saw on my Galaxy phone that it had it available, but I have like kind of like the lamest Galaxy phone, so I don't know if they do have it or not. I don't know. Anyway, my point is that we're gonna do the same project, only it works a little bit different. So I'm going to create an exact copy, Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V, and I'm going to flatten it, and this is where I'm going to print and cut. Now with Snap Mat, we don't need to keep the same layout because we're going to be using design space to move the shapes around and placing them on top of where they need to go. So what we need to do is to do different offsets. I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna group this. I'm gonna change around here so you can see better. Now I'm gonna do the offset as well. Small offset. I think that looks pretty good. Now this time I'm not gonna weld the offsets. I'm gonna leave them separate. And I'm gonna click on apply. Now this group, I'm gonna hide it so I can work on my offsets. Now here, this one, I wanna make sure it's individual, but since it had 2 circles here, that's why it shows me 2, so I'm going to weld them and make sure everything is nice and, you know, like together. This 2, it had 2 circles, so I'm going to weld them. This cool one is also separate because this design over here has different colors, different layers, but I want everything together. I'm gonna weld it again. And now I'm going to contour it because I don't want these things. Perfect. And the pencils I also want to keep together, and there is a lot of offsets for my pencils, so I'm going to weld it. For my A, everything seems just fine, only 1 offset. My B2 and my C looks perfect as well. So with the A, I'm going to contour it. I'm also going to contour my letter B. And perfect, I have all my offsets. I'm gonna save my project. And now let's go to my phone. I just like doing it as much as I can on my desktop. I am here in Cricut Design Space, and here is my project that we were working on my desktop, and I'm gonna tap on it and I'm gonna click on Make It. Now I'm gonna be using my Maker 3, so I'm going to use on mat, and I'm gonna click on Next. I have two mats. I have the print and cut mat, and I also have my outline mat. And now I'm gonna click on Next. I'm going to do this one here. I'm gonna send it to my printer, and I'm going to select here my color printer, and I'm gonna click on Print, and I select Copy Paper. And my printer is printing. This is my printed copy, and I'm going to cut it with my machine. First, I'm gonna place it on my mat. Now open my machine, load, and start. My machine is done cutting, and now I'm going to remove everything from the mat. At this point, I don't care about print and cut sheet, the guidelines, because I'm not gonna use them. Here's my laminator, and these are all the things that I want to laminate and also cut again. This time, it doesn't really matter a lot where you place the things. Just like, I know I want to do my pens together, so I want to make sure they stay together. And I have to be very careful so things don't move. I'm done laminating, and now we are going to place this on the Cricut mat. Let's go back to my phone. So the next mat is gonna be this black one. However, we're going to be using Snap Mat. So I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna click on Cancel, and I'm gonna click on Snap Mat. Now, Snap Mat is a little bit glitchy. I'm gonna be honest with you. I called them because I was fighting with this, and they recommended I installed the latest version of ISO. So if you don't have it, just make sure you have the latest updates on everything. Finally, after a while, I was able to get the Snap Mat to work. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm gonna leave on the screen how long it took me. You know, I'm sweating. Anyway, tap on Use, place all the outlines on each, on everything. So try to do your best to place everything where it should go. It's like, I'm just gonna start kind of like organizing a little bit, and now I'm gonna start from the bottom. I'm gonna start with the A. And something that I like to do is kind of like to move it on this side a little bit and tilt it like this, and then kind of like trying to picture where it should go. Click on Next, and let's load the mat, and I'm gonna start the cut. My machine is done cutting, and gotta tell you that this one was a little bit more disappointing. Like, wow. I mean, the letters looked kind of like, The B is the best one. The C sucks, the A sucks, and this one is just terrible. I just think I was tired and I didn't take my time to place everything where it should go. Now let's compare them with method 1. Method 1 does look perfect. I mean, I gotta tell you, they do look very perfect. I mean, it's a little extra step with doing the cut layer, but yes, this one I just don't recommend it, because unless you have an Explore machine. I mean, I want to use this one because it seems the other things are easier to place on top, but I just don't like using Snap Mat when it's so glitchy. And it does have a room for error, and this time it really was terrible. In other cuts that I did before, it wasn't that terrible.